Tonight I would like to share some thoughts about composing themes for Baldur's Gate 3. Because the people keep asking me the same questions over and over again, and it feels so very good. People asking me, how did you compose the main theme for Baldur's Gate 3? How does it work? What is the secret behind composing a main theme for such a huge game like Baldur's Gate 3? And as much as I like to tell you this is the secret, go for it, I don't think that there is a secret, but I would be very happy to share with you my recipe and my approach, my thoughts, and maybe it would resonate with my fellow composers out there and would help them to come up with their own beautiful themes in the future. If this happens, please let me know, drop me a message that would make me extremely happy. So, talking about main theme, it all started with a channel. I really enjoy having a long walks down the channel of beautiful city of Ghent. This is how it all started. I'll just jump straight to the point and tell you that I have two approaches in composing themes, main themes. One is without lyrics, like the case with Divinity Original Sin 2. Do we have any people, by the way, here who are familiar with this game of Larian Studios? Can you please show me? Wow, woo! Thank you so much. Okay, so in the case of Divinity Original Sin 2, the main themes was without lyrics. And the second approach of mine is when I have lyrics. It's a completely different approach, and you might not believe it, but I love it so much because every time I look into any text, not just lyrics, but just text, if you just give me a newspaper, if I just open the newspaper, I can start, singing what I read. You might not believe it, but we might have, if you like, we can make an experiment at some time. The text is singing back to me. That would be the best way to put it in. I don't know how does it work, but every time I look into a text, if I look into, any lyrics on text, I can see the rhythm, the music behind the words. This is how it works for me. But ultimately, the very foundation of composing a theme, not just a main theme, is the emotion. The emotion is the essence, the very beginning of how it all starts at my side. And I cannot, stop repeating myself every time that when I'm talking with my students, when I give lectures or on video game music, I keep repeating myself, telling them, don't pay too much attention to the technical side. Don't pay too much attention to the technology, to the instrumentation. Even forget about music theory for a moment. It's about you, your emotion, and the theme that you want to compose. Because, let me ask you a question. How do we expect to excite somebody else with our music if we cannot excite ourselves in the first place? So the first and the most important thing is the very emotion. And naturally, the next question comes in place, how we get excited, how we get emotional. And for me, the foundation and I have a couple of ways to inspire myself, but the most important one is that I try to stay connected with my fellow colleagues at Larian Studios. This is how it works with me. I have long conversations, long discussions about narrative, about the gameplay mechanics, the combat, everything. This is the typical way that Larian Studios works. We enjoy brainstorming, discussing, arguing, coming with ideas at any moment during the development stage. And the moment we all believe that this is a good idea, we all jump in and make it happen. A beautiful example is our beloved villain Raphael and his song Final Act, which way, believe it or not, less than 6 months before the release of the game as a result of the great idea given by our director Sven Vinke. But that's not all, because at the very beginning, the narrative is not set in stone. The gameplay is not yet nailed down. The visuals are work in progress. And you might ask, do I wait, or how do I inspire myself? How do I excite myself to the point that I can say, okay, I feel it, it's there. Now will be the right time to grab my guitar and start composing and writing music. One of the really important things in composing music for me and the way we approach the music in our games is that at the very beginning, when the narrative is not yet there, fully nailed and clarified, there are no enough visuals and gameplay mechanics. My anchor is the team spirit. What does that mean? This means that I absolutely love speaking with my fellow colleagues. The very first thing that I remember when I look back in time more than 6 years ago was a trip from city of Ghent to London. Small crew of Larian Studios members. We were traveling with our director Sven Vinke from Ghent to London. We were going to join then the Develop conference in Brighton. And I remember that was the very first time Sven was sharing the idea about Baldur's Gate 3. He was telling us, he was sharing the first draft version of the story. He was telling about his vision, direction, where we were going for. And honestly, there were too few things I remember, details from this very story. But I will never ever forget the excitement, and I will never ever forget a single thought of mine. I was thinking to myself, I would really like to have my guitar by my side now, because I feel so much emotionally charged that if somebody gives me a guitar, that would be the moment I will start singing to Sven, trying to impress him with the very next piece of music that I want to compose. Because ultimately, the team spirit is something that should be always there. The team spirit is one of the most important driving force. And this is how it all starts. Down by the river, when I was having my favorite walks, I was skipping the lyrics in the back of my mind. I was playing around with the rhythmic, with the words, and remembering every single word that Sven was telling me about the story, the direction, the scope of the game, and everything, to the point that I stopped and I started humming. Lace your heart with mine. I said, okay, that's it. And I kept humming, and I realized that was a very special moment. I quickly took out my phone, recorded the very first version, but that was not enough. I really needed to run back to the office, because I knew that if I don't do it, I'm going to waste a very precious moment in my career and in my life. Because you can record a simple tune, but you're going to waste the moment. You're going to waste the emotion. So I remember I was literally running back to the office. I kicked in, I grabbed my guitar, and I pressed the record button. And this is how it all started, believe it or not. This was the very first version. And this is how I came up with this idea about Down by the River, fully driven and inspired by the emotion, by the team spirit, by the very first discussions and brainstorming with the team. And now would be the right time for you to play the birth of Down by the River. Maybe some of you watched this one already on the internet. I published it some time ago, but it was a very special moment, and I would very much love to share with you now. Lace your heart with mine, let your sleepy soul take flight, take me through the night, down, down, down by the river. Down, down, down by the river. Down, down, down by the river. Inky embers swear and dance. Just leave the flames and take the chance to be with me tonight. Take my hand and hold it tight. You and I are everywhere. The night is young. We're going. Okay, do we have a time to sing? Thank you so much. Do you need to close your eyes to imagine a night and a campfire? A river passing by? Is it okay? Is everybody okay? Can you imagine these guys? Thank you so much. So, and a bard, of course, playing a song. Down, down, down by the river. Down, down, down by the river. Don't wake me up, just leave me there dreaming. Okay, but something's going on, as I said. And the same piece of music, the same simple acoustic tune develops into something completely different. Thank you so much, guys. The moment my music direction presentation ended, I will never ever forget this special moment in my life and in my career, like it was yesterday. I was really hoping that I managed to found the main theme of the game. And I was talking with my fellow colleagues, but something that, again, I have such a vivid memory, like it happened yesterday. People would came to me and they would usually say, "Good job, well done. It was a really nice presentation," would be kind, supportive. But what made me extremely happy, made me over the moon, they would start singing Down by the River. They would not talk about, they would not comment anything else that I was talking about, the music direction, but they would just tell me story. I remember one of my fellow colleagues at Larian came to me and said, "Bobby, when I was watching the presentation and listened to the last piece of music that you presented, I imagined myself walking down by the river with my girlfriend, holding her hand, and thinking about all the good times and memories that we were having, just to be frightened at the very end by the ominous note that you left at the very end of the music. I didn't know what to expect, but maybe you're going to explain this to me further." And that was the moment I realized that, yes, I think I managed to find something special when it comes to theme. The most important question is, what does a main theme need to be? And the very first thing that comes to my mind, is that the theme needs to be strong. I hope that you would agree with me. It needs to have a character, it needs to have a personality. Something that is strong enough to set the tone, something that is strong enough to make you curious, to make you excited, to make you jump in and start drawing on your own adventure. But what else? Can you help me? What you guys would expect from a main theme except for being strong and having a strong character and personality? Don't be shy, just shout out.
Epic.
Epic. What else?
Passion.
Passionate. Okay, fantastic. What else?
Memorable.
This is what I was really hoping to hear. Please shout out.
Memorable.
Memorable. Why? Because this is the main theme. It needs to stay with you. It needs to give you, that they have not just an identity, but to be the hook, to be the memorable motif, that the silver line that goes from start to the finish. And when I was traveling between the different studios of Larian Studios, the most important thing and the most magical moments when I remember were the ones that the people, the moment they see me, they would not say, "Hello, Bobby, how are you?" But they were like, "Down, down, down by the river." And it sounded like a joke, but it was not a joke. It was the biggest and the best compliment that I've ever heard in my life. And that gave me the confidence that I found something memorable, strong and memorable. But what else do we need and do we want from a main theme when we are talking about the main theme from the scope of Baldur's Gate 3? Emotion.
Versatility.
Versatility is a really beautiful English word. Thank you so much. Yeah, I love this one. And how about, oops. Yeah, well, you saw it already. This is one of my most favorite memes. Basically, this meme gave me the confidence, one of the strongest confidence that I was going on the right path when we were talking about strong and memorable theme. But going back to versatility, may I, paraphrase and say scalable and then explain what I mean? I believe that the main theme should not only be strong and memorable, but also should be able to be, scaled and developed in any given direction. Why? Because that's the single theme to rule them all. Single theme to be the silver line from start to finish. The theme that should be able to be developed in any direction, in any style, in any scope, in any scale. And that was the moment of truth. That was the real challenge for Down by the River for me. That was the moment, I was really afraid of, because you can imagine how attached I felt already to this theme, and how happy I was with its strength and how memorable it was. So I did an experiment. And if I may, I would like to make the same experiment here with you. Would you like to help me and play a game together? No?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Because everything starts usually with a guitar and my voice, I decided to give it a full-blown version, and we developed the first version as a full-blown song with professional singer, which you're well aware and familiar with.
Let your sleeping soul take flight, take me through the night, down, down, down by the river, down, down, down by the river.
Okay, but was it enough? I was wondering. I was asking myself if it was truly, the theme to rule them all. I should be able to develop this very theme in any given direction, in any given scale. But most importantly, I should start from the ground. And I would really like to hear how the same tune, how the same theme would sound naked. Just a single voice. Happy with the result of the experiment, I decided to move forward. And now would be the right time to play a game together. If you would like to take part in the game, raise your hand, shout one of those keywords: ominous, epic, melancholic, or let's go circus. Yeah, if it's gonna be a real experiment, we need to go to the extreme. I believe that you would agree with me. Otherwise, it's gonna be just, a show that I'm trying to, Okay, so raise your hand, shout a keyword, one of those 4, and pick a number. If there is a match, you win a prize. If there is no match, you sing a song. No. Relax, I will be singing, okay. Who's first? Yeah, please, I want somebody to shout it out.
Number 5, let's go circus.
5, let's go circus, okay. Well, not exactly, I'd say. Okay, so that's definitely the same theme. I believe that you would agree with me. But it's not a circus theme, right? So if you don't want to sing, you can. Cool. Next one. Raise your hand, shout a name, pick up a number.
7, let's go circus.
No. You cannot repeat the same word twice. I'm sorry.
Ominous 6.
Ominous 6. Okay. Woo! And we have a winner. And the winner gets Larian t-shirt. Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much for playing the game with me. I was talking about scalability, and I would like to ask you a question. Was Down by the River a scalable theme?
Yes.
That was really unconvincing. Thank you so much. I believe so too. And there were really some extremely crazy interpretations and renditions of the same very theme. But going back to answering the question, what does it take? What are we expecting from a main theme? Yes, we need to be strong, a main theme to be strong. We need a main theme to be memorable. And last but definitely not least, it needs to be scalable, because to wear the burden of the crown being a main theme, it should be able to be developed in any given direction. Romantic, epic, ominous, or even Let's Go Circus. This time around, I really wanted to share a few more thoughts about a few other themes. And one of the themes that I wanted to talk about today, guys, is the mind flayer theme. I selected this one for a very specific reason. This theme was supposed to cover and to represent the mind flayers from a couple of completely different perspectives. Yeah. The first one obviously being very militaristic, very aggressive, representing the ambition for world dominion and conquest of the mind flayers. And the obvious choice was to go full-blown orchestra, heavy on the brass. But it was not all, because we all know that the mind flayers are not just a mere brute force. These are very intelligent, sophisticated creatures known as the mind rulers, mind flayers, mind benders. They have a very high self-confidence. So I figured, along with the brass representation of their desire for world dominion, I need to marry the same piece of music with something totally contrasting, totally different, something that was going to represent their intelligence and their sophisticated character. Make a guess. Or not. The violin was the choice that rightfully fell in place. Otherwise, very unlikely combination, otherwise very unlikely duet between heavy brass and a violin. And I remember having this argument with my music team in the music production studios. The very first moment I presented the idea about having a duet between the violin and the heavy brass, not everyone was convinced. But when the theme was composed and produced, it felt like a really good choice. From one side, brass representing the military force, and on the other side, the solo violins and the violins in general representing the intelligence, the highly sophisticated nature. I was going to say sadistic, but hopefully there are no violin players in the room. Yeah, so, and that was the reason that I wanted to present this very specific theme to you. And one of the other reasons it's so very dear to my heart is that it was going to govern not only the mind flayers, but the entire so-called grand design. Sorry, I took a few minutes to listen to the music. And then we naturally go to another song, which I selected for a very specific reason, because it is a really good example of something that I like describing as a retroactive music implementation. What does that mean? Song of Balduran is a very special piece of music, because I don't know how many of you get to the end of Baldur's Gate 3. Can you raise your hand and show me? Okay, so I'm just trying to see if I can allow myself to review any spoilers, or maybe I should keep it spoiler free. But long story short, that was a song that was supposed to be played in a tavern called Elf Song Tavern. One beautiful day, our director Sven Vinke came to us and told me, you know, it would be really nice if we have a song in the iconic tavern from the previous installment in the series. And the initial version of the song was supposed to be melancholic, ghostly, but most importantly, it was supposed to reveal the real identity of one of the biggest characters in the game, Balduran. The moment we composed, produced, and implemented the theme, I realized that this game had way bigger potential. And if we decided to leave the song playing only on this specific moment in the tavern, it was going to be a wasted potential. because the character I'm talking about was introduced to us all way earlier in the game. And I was thinking, and I was discussing with my fellow colleagues at Larian Studios, how about if we get the same very theme and we arrange and implement it in a different way, dropping the lyrics and play it for the very first time when we meet this very character for the first time. Of course, nobody would pay attention. Of course, nobody would know what it's all about. But later on in the game, when we hear the very same music on a subconscious level, we would be prepared. We would know that this is something familiar, that this is something that we know. We cannot quite place it, but it's going to play a very different and at the same time very cinematic and very powerful role in the music implementation. And now I would like to play those different renditions of the same very song to you so that you know what I mean when I say retroactive music implementation. Starting with the initial one, which is the song itself, Song of Balduran. The retroactive implementation is another fine example of how we work at Larian Studios. We never restrain ourselves. We keep brainstorming, discussing, and whenever there is a cool idea, we are not afraid to go back and forth, to make iterations. And something that's obviously a good choice at the end of the game, but has the potential to be introduced at the beginning, we would never hesitate to jump in and to implement it. And even though the very first version of Song of Balduran was a full-blown song, we decided to go with a second version, which would welcome you the moment you enter the Elf Song Tavern or the moment you cross the line and enter the legendary city of Baldur's Gate. How many of you, by the way, remember this big reveal? How many of you realized who Balduran was? Can you please? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so how many of you have probably noticed that the same piece of music but in a completely different rendition was introduced way earlier in the game with this arrangement? No one? Fantastic. Because that was exactly the idea. The idea was not to recognize this piece of music. The idea was to, to give you a hint on a subconscious level, to prepare you emotionally, to play this piece of music for you without giving you the chance to recognize it. So later on, when you come to the point for the big reveal, you are familiar with it even without knowing that this is something that you have heard before. And now would be the right moment to kindly ask you to show some curiosity and ask me what is number 4. What? I cannot hear you.
What's number 4?
Oh, thank you so much. So number 4 didn't make it in the game, or not the way I wanted it to be. But it was one of my grand design to compose all the themes in the game in a way that they were scalable. So number 4 is a full-blown epic orchestral version of Song of Balduran. Would you like to hear it?
Yes!
Thank you so much. And this would be a really good ending line to say thank you for each and every one of you to be here. Thank you, guys.